Never give up. The story of a poor little boy in the dusty outskirts of a forgotten village in rural India, where the sun baked the cracked earth like an unrelenting furnace and the monsoons turned paths into muddy rivers. Lived a boy named Arjun. He was just 9 years old, small for his age, with skin tanned to the color of sun-bleached clay and eyes that sparkled like the distant stars he often gazed at on sleepless nights. Arjun's home was a flimsy shack pieced together from bamboo poles, tattered tarpaulin sheets, and salvaged bricks, barely a shelter against the whims of the weather. His father, a frail laborer who toiled in the fields from dawn till dusk for a pittance, had passed away 2 years earlier from a sudden fever that the village quack couldn't cure. His mother, with calloused hands and a back bent from endless chores, sold wild greens and handmade brooms at the weekly market, scraping together just enough rice and lentils to keep hunger at bay. Arjun's days began before the roosters crowed. He would wake to the faint glow of a kerosene lamp, his mother already stirring a pot of watery dal over a smoky batter. "Today you must study hard," she would whisper, her voice a fragile thread of hope amid the poverty that clung to them like damp clothes. But studying was a luxury Arjun could scarcely afford. After a hurried breakfast of stale roti dipped in thin buttermilk, he dashed to the village school, a crumbling building with leaky roofs and benches scarred by years of use. The school was free, but the walk was 2 miles each way, and Arjun's bare feet blistered on the hot gravel. Inside, the teacher, Mr. Rowe, a stern man with wire-rimmed glasses and a passion for mathematics, drilled the children in arithmetic and English alphabets. Arjun loved school. It was his escape, a window to a world beyond the mud walls. He dreamed of becoming a doctor, like the ones in the faded posters on the school wall, who wore crisp white coats and saved lives with stethoscopes and smiles. Yet dreams were fragile things in Arjun's world. The other boys in his class came from families with a little more shoes on their feet, pencils that didn't snap every other day, and notebooks without ragged edges. They teased him mercilessly, Arjun the beggar. They'd chant during recess, mimicking his threadbare shirt and the way he mended his shorts with jute twine. One boy, Raju, the son of the village moneylender, was the worst. With a smug grin and a new cricket bat under his arm, he'd shove Arjun against the wall and snatch his slate, smudging the carefully drawn numbers. "What good is learning for a street rat like you? Go fetch water for your ma instead." The words stung deeper than the slaps, burrowing into Arjun's heart like thorns. One sweltering afternoon, as the class labored over a multiplication table, Mr. Rowe announced a surprise, a district-wide essay competition on my dream for India. The winner would receive a scholarship, books, a uniform, and a chance at a better school in the city. Arjun's heart leaped. This was it, his ticket out of the shadows. That evening, under the flickering light of the lamp, he poured his soul onto a borrowed sheet of paper. His essay spoke of a India where no child went hungry, where doctors reached every village, and where boys like him could chase stars without fear. He wrote until his fingers cramped, imagining the pride in his mother's eyes. The day of the results arrived like a storm cloud. The school courtyard buzzed with excitement as Mr. Rowe unrolled the letter from the district office. Arjun stood at the back, clutching his tattered notebook, his pulse thundering in his ears. Third place, second place, ... Mr. Rowe's voice droned on. Then a pause. And the first prize goes to ... Raju Patel. The courtyard erupted in cheers. Raju strutted forward, his SEA-polished piece about grand highways and shining cities. Ghost-written by his tutor held high like a trophy. Arjun's world tilted. He had lost. Not just the competition, but the flicker of hope that had kept him going. As the crowd dispersed, Raju sauntered over, waving the certificate. Told you, beggar. Dreams are for those who can afford them. He crumpled Arjun's essay, still clutched in his trembling hand, and tossed it into the dust. That night, Arjun lay on his thin mat, staring at the thatched roof where raindrops threatened to seep through. Tears carved silent paths down his cheeks. Why try, Ma? He sobbed when she returned from the market, her sorry heavy with the day's sweat. The world doesn't want boys like me. I'll never be anything. His mother knelt beside him, her rough hands cupping his face. She didn't have words of silver poetry, only the raw truth of survival. Arjun, my lion, she said, her voice steady as the Ganges. Life is like the river outside our door, full of rocks that bruise your feet and currents that pull you under. But the water doesn't stop. It flows around, over, through. Your father. He never gave up, even when the fever burned him from inside. He planted seeds in barren soil, and look, mango trees shade us now. Give up once, and the river wins. Fight beta, and one day you'll carve your own path. Her words lingered like the scent of jasmine after rain. The next morning, Arjun rose with the sun, a quiet fire kindling in his chest. He couldn't afford new books, so he borrowed from the school library, poring over them by moonlight when the lamp oil ran dry. He practiced English phrases with the old widow next door, who once taught in the city. When Raju mocked him again, Arjun didn't flinch. Instead, he challenged him to a math duel during recess, simple sums on the dirt floor with a stick. Raju faltered, his borrowed knowledge crumbling, and for the first time, the other boys saw Arjun not as a beggar, but as a spark. Months turned to a year. Arjun entered every small contest he could find, a spelling bee, a science fair, a drawing competition. He failed often, his drawings smudged from cheap crayons, his speeches stumbling over unfamiliar words. But each failure was a stone in his growing wall of resilience. He collected empty bottles from the market to sell for ink money, woke an hour earlier to study, and shared his meager lunches with classmates who shared their notes. His mother watched, her eyes shining with unspoken pride, as the boy who once wept now walked taller. Then came the turning point. The district announced another competition, this time a statewide science expo for budding inventors. The theme: simple solutions for village problems. Arjun's mind raced. He thought of the monsoons that flooded their shack, drowning crops and dreams alike. With scraps of wire from the junkyard, old bicycle tires, and bamboo from the riverbank, he built a modular, low-cost rainwater harvester that filtered and stored water in elevated tanks, preventing floods and providing clean drinking supply. It wasn't perfect. The prototype leaked on his first test, soaking his notes and nearly drowning his resolve. "Give up," a voice whispered Reus, the world's, his own doubts. But Arjun remembered the river. He patched the leaks with clay and rubber scraps, tested it again under the relentless rain, tweaking until the water flowed pure and steady. The expo day dawned bright and chaotic, the city hall teeming with polished students from elite schools, their projects gleaming under spotlights. Arjun arrived in his mended shirt, his model balanced on a wobbly cart made from a discarded crate. Whispers followed him. "Look at the village boy," but he stood straight, explaining his invention with a voice clear as a bell. "This isn't just for me," he said to the judges, his eyes fierce. "It's for every mother who watches her child thirst, every father who loses his harvest to the flood. India dreams big, but it starts small in the villages with hands like mine." The judges leaned in, probing with questions. Arjun had rehearsed 100 times. When they asked about failures, he didn't hide them. "I failed an essay once," he admitted, glancing at no one in particular. It hurt. But failure isn't the end. It's the teacher that pushes you forward. Silence fell, then applause. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Mr. Rouse's voice boomed over the microphone. "First place, Arjun from Willow Village." The scholarship was more than book sit, was a full ride to a boarding school in the city, with stipends for his mother and a promise of university someday. Ryu, slinking in the crowd, offered a grudging nod. "Not bad, street rat," but Arjun just smiled. "Call me Arjun, and next time, race me fair." Years later, Dr. Arjun stood in a white coat, stethoscope around his neck, in a clinic he'd built back in his village. The rainwater harvesters dotted the fields now, quenching the thirst of hundreds. Children with sparkling eyes gathered around him, reciting multiplication tables without fear, and in the quiet moments when doubt crept in like old shadows, Arjun would look to the river still flowing, unyielding, and whispered to himself and the stars, "Never give up, for in the heart of every poor little boy beats the rhythm of a lion, fierce, persistent, unbreakable." And the world, for all its rocks and currents, bends to those who refuse to stop.